What's up, guys? This is the 8-week update. Exactly 2 months since I quit vaping today. And a lot of crazy stuff has happened. I still haven't vaped for 8 weeks. I'm still going clean. But what's crazy is I actually had a doctor appointment for the end of the week, and I was going to be meeting with my primary physician. And we were going to be talking about weaning off of the Chantix, or like how to come off the Chantix, because you're supposed to like take it for a certain amount of time and go up on your dose and then come down on your dose and then stop completely. And what's crazy is last Friday, a few days ago, when I went to Thursday, when I went to work, I realized that I hadn't took my Chantix, and I was feeling okay. And I was like, hey, maybe this is okay. I was starting to freak out, thinking that, I got to go home. I got to go get my medicine. I'm not going to be able to make it. And I made it through the whole night. And I didn't take my second dosage before bed. And then I woke up the next day, that Friday, and was feeling all right. I'm still not feeling 100%. I don't have any cravings necessarily for vaping. There aren't any withdrawals, nothing of that sort. It's more of just like a want to smoke something, and trying to get away from that, I think, is going to take a little bit more time, but it's very, very manageable. And now, ever since that Thursday night I didn't take it, I've been off the Chantix now for, let's say, 3-4 days. About 4 days with no Chantix, no vaping, no nothing. And it kind of seems surreal. Like I struggled that first week or two when I was coming off of the vaping. And it was tough with like mood swings and cravings. But overall, I think it went a lot better than I expected. I thought it was going to be way worse than it actually was. And I'm completely surprised at how much the Chantix helped me. Because I had tried to quit vaping, a few times prior to that, on like the patches or just going cold turkey and like doing other stuff. And I never managed to last longer than like maybe a few days. And it was completely horrible. And Chantix seemed to make it a really, really easy transition. It seemed surreal. It seemed like, when I put vaping and like smoking in like a box, I think of it as being like extremely hard for me to live without. I've gone 20 years without, with smoking something, whether it was cigarettes or vaping. And to go without it, though it's hard, Chantix made it extremely easy. I can't recommend it enough to anybody who wants to quit smoking. The only side effects that I had from it is when I would take my dosage, if I took it late in the day before I went to bed, I'd have really vivid dreams. I personally never experienced any bad dreams, just extremely vivid dreams. Things that like seem extremely real, a lot of weird stuff. And a lot of times they would wake me up out of my sleep. So after a few weeks, I ended up just taking like my 2 dosages like earlier in the day, one when I woke up, one halfway through the day, so it wasn't so close to my sleep, and I had no issue with it whatsoever. But I'm completely off the Chantix now. I feel good. Like I said before, besides being locked up, this is the longest time in 20 years that I haven't been smoking or vaping. And just that 2-month gap, where I haven't been taking any vaping in, my sinuses have opened, and I can breathe through my nose better, and I can breathe better at night, and it's a noticeable difference. As far as like my conditioning goes, I don't see any difference with my running or working out, like having any of my conditioning be any better. I think it's going to take an extremely long amount of time for my lungs to repair and come back, if they do. We don't really know what's going on with vaping and what it's doing to our lungs, but I know that I'll get some there's Bentley. We want to see my dog. He's right there. But I know that just quitting is going to make some improvements. I'm going to get improvements just as it is. And I'm a person who's like always slightly congested through my nose anytime I smoke. It's like I'm like slightly allergic to smoking, cigarettes and vaping and everything. And it seemed like for an extremely long amount of time, I was not able to smell through my nose. Unless it was something extremely, potent of a smell, I couldn't smell anything out of my nose. And I think I'd annoy my wife all the time with it because she's like, do you smell this? Do you smell that? And I'm like, I can't smell anything. I'm like always slightly a little clogged up. And about a month into no vaping, that completely went away. And my airways have been way more open for me to breathe. I'm very curious to see, how it's going to be in the next 6 months, year, how it's going to affect me. A running total, the amount of money that I've saved just off of not vaping for the last couple months is insane. It was starting to get very expensive there. I was paying about $30 per vape, between $25 and $30 per vape, and I was vaping 2 vapes a week. And when you put that into perspective, we're talking about like $240 every single month to vape. $500 that I've just saved over the last 2 months just from not vaping. And I think it's going to be extremely noticeable as time goes by, not spending money on the vapes, how my health is going to improve. If anybody's struggling with quit smoking, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor, see if you can get on Chantix. I can't recommend it enough. I can't say for sure that it saved my life, but I guarantee that it's going to put some more years back on my life. Just like quitting everything else and trying to improve yourself and just try to keep moving forward. If you're trying to quit smoking, you're trying to quit different stuff, keep fucking trying. All this stuff that worked for me may not work for you. And a lot of other stuff that people recommended to me to get clean and to come off of this and to quit that and to quit that, didn't work. Sometimes you got to find your own way. Sometimes you have to be open to trying different things. If something's not working for you, try something else. Hope you guys like the new scenery. This is my backyard. I'm gonna try to change it up a little bit, not to be out in the car or in the gym all the time. I got a new update coming this week at the end of the week. We got something big in the works. I'm going to be making a body transformation that I want everybody to follow along with. That video, look for it at the end of the week. It'll be dropping on Friday. Otherwise, I love all you guys. I hope you have a great week. If you're loving the content, please like, please comment, please subscribe. I'm out.